Now, the latest from ITV News Meridian in the south.
Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. Brussels bombings, Gatwick and Heathrow on high alert. Trains and flights are cancelled. Our MEPs condemn the outrage.
The youngsters with nowhere to call home, why young homelessness is a growing problem.
Worse than smoking. In the latest in our special reports focusing on childhood obesity, we look at the alarming side effects of excessive sugar.
And gardening on a grand scale, we find out just what it takes to come up with an escape from the bustle of city life. Good evening. MEPs from across our region are tonight leading the condemnation of the terrorist attacks in Brussels, which have left more than 30 people dead and many more seriously injured. The
South East MEP Catherine Bearder heard the explosion from her office in the European Parliament. She immediately responded to an appeal giving blood as hospitals struggle to help the survivors. This report from Mary Stanley.
Eyewitnesses described a nightmare of fire, dust and panic as terrorists attacked the check-in area at Brussels airport. An hour later there was another blast at a metro station. South East MEP Catherine Bearder has an apartment just yards from the scene, but was in a meeting in the Parliament building when news of the attacks broke.
I live just around the corner from Melbeck. Little did I know that as I left, there were people preparing to blow up the trains. It's just awful, awful day in Brussels. We all travel, we all fly, we all go on the metro, on the trains, so we have that empathy and we understand what it must have been like for, because any other day it might have been us that were there.
Here, security has been stepped up at Heathrow and Gatwick airports, with a high visibility police presence outside terminals and vehicle checkpoints in surrounding roads. Bosses say the safety of passengers and staff is their main priority.
The atrocity this morning exposes the vulnerability of aviation security, that landside areas, the fact that you or I can wander into the check-in area, to the arrivals area, nobody is going to ask to see our papers or check our possessions. I can see that changing very quickly within weeks or possibly months, and we'll have another layer of aviation security.
It was going to happen. These people are here, they're here to frighten us, it's terror they want to instill us, they want the complete and utter shutdown. I'm trying to temper my language, but I'm so very, very angry.
The Prime Minister convened a meeting of the Cobra Emergency Committee.
Today is a day for sympathy and condolence, for enhancing our own security, for working with our Belgian colleagues and offering them every help that we can, and to making sure we're very clear we will never let these terrorists win.
As Christians, we pray. We pray above all for victims, for the people of Belgium. We pray for those caught up in any way in this.
Meanwhile, the UK terrorist threat level remains at severe. Mary Stanley, ITV News.
Well, the Foreign Office is now advising people not to travel to Brussels unless it's absolutely essential. You can find the latest updates on our website. Just go to itv.com/Meridian.
Other news now. Sussex Police say their investigation into the Shoreham air crash is being hampered because key evidence is missing. 11 people died when a vintage Hawker Hunter jet crashed onto the A27 during the display last August. Today, detectives told a pre-inquest hearing they've had to apply to the High Court to get access to material from the Air Accident Investigation Branch.
2 people have been injured in a crash involving an ambulance in Southampton. A grey Skoda ended up on its side following the crash with the emergency vehicles at the crossroads of Taruba Way and Oakley Road this morning. It's believed the ambulance was on a 999 call at the time. The ambulance crew were unhurt. It's a hidden and growing problem. The youngsters facing life on the streets.
A charity based in the New Forest says it's worked with dozens of young people, sleeping anywhere from a friend's sofa to a derelict warehouse or even a park bench. Now it's started new drop-in sessions offering free food and free advice.
Well, Kerry Swain has been hearing stories of those who have no place to call their own and talking to the workers trying to help the homeless.
It's known to everyone local as the warehouses. For me, it was literally my second home, as I had nowhere else to go. There'd always be a minimum of about 10 people in there somewhere sleeping or with a little fire going. Visible signs of heavy drug abuse in there.
This derelict building, one of 20-year-old Jordan's better addresses in recent years.
Sometimes I either just roughed it out under bus shelters, etc., or just walk around the entire night because obviously it got cold and you obviously want to keep yourself warm and not get hypothermia.
Around the back there is a fire door, and there always used to be a piece of wood just so that the door couldn't close and we can get in and out that way.
It was so easy to get in there and it was warm. You'd go up against someone's wall and you'd feel the heat from their house.
18-year-old Shannon spent nights in the corridors of these flats when she couldn't find a sofa to sleep on. She says she came from a troubled home. Family relationships broke down. 19-year-old Joshua also became homeless after falling out with his mother.
It was cold, uncomfortable, just park benches really. It was just whatever you could find. I would have been about 16, 17 at the time.
What does it do to you as a person, sleeping rough and not having a home of your own?
Oh, it's lonely. It does put you down quite far. It makes you feel like you've got nobody.
The charity It's Your Choice, based in Totton, has been helping young people with problems across the New Forest for nearly 30 years. Homelessness an increasing concern.
It is largely hidden. If you look at the statistics, you would say there isn't really a homeless problem in the New Forest. But these young people, particularly in this group 18 to 25 that we work with a good deal, there's a significant number. We reckon we worked with 70 over the last 12 months.
Usually they are sofa surfing more often than not in this area. So that could be with other family, with extended family, it could be with friends. And sometimes it's with people they don't actually know very well at all. Sometimes they're staying in cars, in caravans. We have young people actually street homeless, sometimes tents.
This wooded area by the river used for sleeping rough, the group told me.
It takes its toll on their physical health. We see a lot of chest infections, a lot of skin infections. It takes its toll on their mental health.
Even with a job, most under 25s don't earn enough to buy a home. Renting impossible without a deposit and references. 4,000 people are on New Forest District Council's housing waiting list. It's Your Choice offers free food, somewhere to wash clothes, help and advice.
I was in such a downward spin and not having no confidence, not believing in myself, feeling suicidal, and feeling shut out from the world because everyone looks at you as the lower class and they don't actually know the realisation of what is actually going on. They just brand you as you're homeless.
And what would you have done without them?
I'd probably be dead in a car. That's the truth.
Jordan is free from drugs, back home with his family and working. Joshua still sofa surfing, but he and Shannon also have jobs, all three hoping, like so many young people, for a place of their own. Kerry Swain, ITV News.
Campaigners fighting plans to close dozens of children's centres in Hampshire have held a demonstration. The County Council's proposing reducing 56 centres to just 11. Protesters petitioned against the proposed cuts outside the Eastleigh Wells Place Centre. They say cutting the services will only create bigger problems in the future.
We think that will make the service inaccessible to Hampshire's families. Not everybody has a car, not everybody can access a bus. So especially for mums who are at home on their own with their children, it's very isolating.
Bournemouth and Brighton have been named as two of the most congested places in the UK. According to a new study, drivers waste an average of 127 hours a year stuck in traffic.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. We're motoring along. Coming up, Simon Parkin explaining why you should have made the most of today's sunshine. Plus,
what it takes to design a prize-winning garden. The students who needed more than just green fingers.
For more on our stories, go to our website, itv.com/Meridian. And if you have any news for us, give us a ring or get in touch using Facebook. Or why not send us a tweet?
All of the day's news now, and building work is underway on Salisbury's first dedicated breast unit. Funded by the Stars Appeal campaign, the unit will be based at Salisbury District Hospital and will offer patients quicker care and treatment.
At the moment they come to a clinic and they have to go to a separate unit to have mammograms and radiology. This unit will put everything in one place. It will be a better environment, it will be calm, it will be comforting, and it will make the best we can of a terribly anxious time for those patients.
Plans for a multi-million-pound tram link between Portsmouth and Southampton have been revived. Previous schemes have been abandoned, but now transport chiefs believe the link could be part of the proposed Solent devolution proposal. That would see millions of pounds of funding for the Solent area.
The accident and emergency team at Wexham Park Hospital in Berkshire have won a national award for turning the department around. The A&E department was rated as requiring improvement by inspectors in 2014. Complaints have now been halved. It's now rated as outstanding by the Care Quality Commission.
An operation has been launched to protect Dorset's heathland from fire. Police, fire and wildlife groups have joined together to stop arson attacks and antisocial behaviour by talking to school children and local communities. Last year there were more than 100 reports of heath fires in the county.
More from Brussels now, and the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30 with more on those terrorist atrocities in Belgium. Here's Mary Nightingale.
More than 30 people are dead after multiple terror attacks in Brussels. There were 2 explosions at the city's international airport in rush hour this morning. An hour later, there was another blast at a busy metro station. Armed police have made arrests across the city as so-called Islamic State claim responsibility for the attack. Join us for extended coverage of the Brussels attacks at 6:30.
First it was fat, then salt. But as the problem of childhood obesity soars, the focus is turning to the problem of sugar in the diets of young people and the health problems they're storing up for the future.
Well, all this week, ITV is focusing on obesity, looking at the problems facing generations of families and what's being done to help.
This month, of course, the government highlighted the problem by announcing plans for a tax on sugary drinks. Sarah Saunders investigates why one doctor in the south says soaring sugar intake for children could be as serious as smoking.
Childhood obesity has been described as a national epidemic, and health experts are warning that a major factor is that our children are consuming far too much sugar. To test that theory, the Page family have agreed to keep a sugar diary, logging everything they eat and drink for a week. Expert in nutrition Charlotte Sterling-Reid has done the sums.
Currently, it's recommended, especially for you 2 boys, that you have no more than about 7 teaspoons of sugar or 7 teaspoons of added sugar every day. And actually what I found you boys are having is about 3 times the amount of that. So you're actually having around about 21 teaspoons of sugar, roughly each, every single day.
Scott and Ross's results fit with the national average, that children are consuming 3 times the recommended amount of sugar. 9-year-old Lauren has been clocking up twice the amount of sugar she should have.
I do hope and I do plan to change my what I'm eating.
I'm really shocked about the results, and I definitely think I'm going to try and cut down on quite a few things and change it to maybe fruit or something healthier.
Sugar doesn't just pack a punch in cakes and sweets. It can also be found lurking in everyday food and drink. Here at the Kent Scientific Services Lab, they've agreed to test for added sugars in a selection of common food. First up, a familiar way for children to start the day, Honey Nut cornflakes. How much sugar in there?
Well, it's quite a high amount actually. We were looking at 4 cubes of sugar. In a kind of a standard portion size of breakfast cereal. It's about 30% sugar.
I mean, that's really shocking for me because I just think children start the day with this.
That's right, yeah, that's probably a typical start for most children's day.
And what about savoury foods? In 2 slices of wholemeal bread, a surprise, there's about half a cube of added sugar. And yes, we know it's bad for us. A bottle of fizzy drink has a whopping 12 cubes of sugar. Now, in terms of a child's recommended daily allowance, What would drinking that do to it?
It increases it by a huge amount.
So what harm is all this sugar doing? Dr. Sahota has a stark warning about eating too much of it.
We're constantly supplying ourselves with sugar. So gradually people are getting more and more obese, and obviously obesity is leading to type 2 diabetes. And kids 10 years old with type 2 diabetes, that never happened 20, 30 years ago, never happened. High blood sugars can damage every cell in the body. I think it really is it's worse, I'd almost say it's worse than smoking. I'd actually say it's worse than smoking. It's that bad.
But we still crave sugar. Using MRI scans, neuroscientist Kira McCabe of Reading University has been studying the effects sugary foods have on our brains as part of her work into psychological disorders.
When you taste sugar, you activate taste receptors in your mouth, and these send a signal to the brain that activates a reward system. And the reward system is part of the brain that activates dopamine, a neurotransmitter that's involved in pleasure. So of course we're going to eat more sugar or eat any foods that we find to be rewarding because we want to experience that pleasure again.
But there's no way to sweeten the message. Health experts say our children must reduce their sugar intake. Sarah Saunders, ITV News.
Well, Sarah Bone, Chief Executive of the Diabetes Research and Wellness Foundation based in the South, is with us now. Sarah, thank you for coming in. We heard a doctor say in that report that sugar is more dangerous than smoking for children. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm in a position to say that it's more dangerous than smoking, but what we do know is that we eat sugar in abundance every day. And too many calories, which obviously sugar contains, is going to increase our weight, make us obese, and we do know that obesity is one of the most significant risk factors for type 2 diabetes.
We've heard today that 20,000 people most at risk of type 2 diabetes are going to be offered exercise or lifestyle education sessions on the NHS. What's your reaction to that?
I think that's fantastic. A nationwide prevention programme is what we need. Raising awareness to the risks of type 2 diabetes and the modifications that we can make to our lifestyle and our lifestyle choices is going to be a fantastic way to reduce the incidence and decrease the prevalence of type 2 diabetes. I think those people are meant to be identified as early as possible and offered access to information and educational support programmes and tools to empower them to be able to make those lifestyle choices in a sustainable way.
And tell us more about what your organisation is doing to achieve that.
Well, DRWF really works to support good self-management skills. So we raise awareness to the risks and symptoms of both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. With type 2 diabetes, our focus is on prevention, but our day-to-day educational programmes are focused on supporting good self-management skills, and by that we mean encouraging people to keep their blood glucose levels, their blood pressure, their cholesterol levels in the good target ranges, and enabling them to self-manage effectively to reduce the risk of associated complications.
And we've got to catch it early. We've got to tell young people about their lifestyle choices, haven't we?
We do. I mean, education is an ongoing thing throughout life, isn't it? I think as part of the national curriculum, it would be fantastic to engage children in those lifestyle choices early on, teaching them good diet and exercise regimes, and helping them to manage that in an effective, sustainable way.
Sarah Bone, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Well, as we've been saying, the government announced in the budget last week it is to tax soft drink manufacturers, those with products that have large amounts of sugar.
Yes, it means an extra 6p or 8p on a standard can of fizzy drink and up to 24p extra for a litre of pop. Well, one council that is getting tough on sugar is Brighton. It has already launched a sugar tax to tackle obesity.
Tom Scanlon, Director of Public Health, is from the City Council, and he told me how the tax works.
Yeah, well, we've got something called a Sugar Smart campaign, which is a whole campaign around sugar, which is with schools, with restaurants, with the general population. And the bit with restaurants involves working with them on their menus, what they offer, and also the possibility of them signing up to a voluntary sugar tax. And it's a voluntary tax. We're working with the Jamie Oliver Foundation, and we're suggesting a voluntary tax, or we have been suggesting a voluntary tax of 10p in all sugary drinks.
Do you have any idea how many shops and bars have taken up the idea?
Yeah, we've approached about 150 or so premises in Brighton and Hove. 70 of them have got back to us to do something about sugar. They are concerned about it, and that might be offering free water, it might be changing what they have in the menus, offering sugar-free alternatives for desserts, and about 24 of them are offering something in the way of pricing, promotions, adding some tax on, or changing the price of things that have less sugar in them.
Looks like it'll be a very short-lived tax because the government are, of course, introducing their own. Does that mean your scheme will be obsolete?
Well, as I say, ours is a whole campaign. We've done so much work with schools. The Jamie Oliver Foundation's helped us to source equipment, kitchen equipment, gardening equipment for schools. And as I say, the restaurants are looking at their formulations of other things they do with sugar on their menus. So our campaign will continue. In fact, I think when you see the children's obesity strategy come out later this year, you'll find that they've nicked a lot of ideas from Brighton and Hove. We've been really pushing at the edge on this one.
Mr. Scanlon, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And you can follow ITV's campaign drawing attention to the alarming consequences of child obesity on our website, itv.com/Meridian. And we'll also have more in tomorrow's programme.
Now, Simon will have the latest weather forecast here in a moment, and sadly it's not good news for those of you who like getting out and about in the garden.
Oh dear. Fortunately, competitors in this year's Young Gardener of the Year competition, and that includes students from Chichester College, have already completed their task.
Yes, they were asked to create a garden which offers an escape from city life. Their work has now gone on display at the National Ideal Home Show. Lauren Hall has been to take a look.
An urban retreat created by a team of talented young gardeners from Chichester College. They've designed and built it from scratch, a striking seating area surrounded by evergreen shrubs and an abundance of beautiful blooms.
It's just so smart, so elegant, but simple at the same time. I think it's absolutely
You can just come
brilliant.
home, sit in the garden and look from all angles and it looks nice. So I think that was quite key.
They've got top marks from their tutor.
I'm so very proud of them all. They have created an elegant, open, simple garden, which I think is something that other people could use quite happily and enjoy.
With this stunning creation, they're hoping to be named Young Gardeners of the Year.
There are 6 of these glorious gardens which have all been designed by college students. But which ones will impress the judges?
On the panel is TV gardener Alan Titchmarsh, who tells me he's encouraged by what he's seen in all the gardens.
These are young students, late teens, early 20s, showing that gardening isn't all about weeding, it's about creativity, it's about design, it's about places you want to be, and I want to be in all these gardens. I've sat down in all of them and thought, I could live here.
The organiser of the competition says our students have made a good impression.
It's a beautiful, fresh-feeling garden. Lovely dome shapes that they've got, not only in the planting, but also in the features too. And some of the best paving laid with a great deal of care for some very enthusiastic students.
The judges agreed.
Chichester College got a silver gilt medal.
But it was these students from Askham Bryan College who got their green fingers on the Best in Show trophy.
Months of hard work finally paid off. Yeah, couldn't be more happy.
Very proud of everyone. From where we started with just the raw materials to the beautiful garden we've got now, it's really good.
Yeah, brilliant. Can't have asked for anything more.
All the students were praised for what they managed to achieve in this national competition. You only have to look at their gardens to see young talent beginning to blossom. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
And if you're... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, that's absolutely stunning.
It's absolutely beautiful. I was just thinking there must be lots of people looking forward to a lovely sunny weekend in their garden
and
this
Easter bank holiday and all the rest of it. So
can Simon oblige?
What do you think?
No.
Let's get the forecast with him. Here he is now.
Well, brace yourself for a change in the weather that can be explained by just 3 little words: bank holiday and weekend. Yep, come the end of the week, it's all going to be a bit different. But between now and then, well, it's not too bad because we've still got high pressure very much in charge, although it is starting to slip away. So for tonight and tomorrow, quiet weather, then it gets a bit more messy. But for tonight, where we've got the clear spells, again, it's going to be fairly chilly. Our temperatures down to around freezing, so a bit of patchy frost and some fog not out of the question, though a fair bit of cloud too. 2. So for most of us, temperatures shouldn't really dip below around 3 or 4 degrees. So still a cold start to tomorrow and more in the way of cloud to look forward to as we head through tomorrow. There will be some bright or sunny spells here and there, but because of that extra cloud cover, it's not going to be as warm as it was today. Today we get up to around 12, 13 degrees. Tomorrow, well, we're just about getting to double figures in some places, but 11 is still 52 in Fahrenheit, which with a light wind is nothing really to complain about. Then Thursday is the tricky day. Tell you why in a moment, but for your high tide times, well, in Southampton, just before 11 in the morning, 25 past 11 in the evening, and then brace yourself, rain coming our way. For the first time in about 2 weeks, we'll see some proper rain pass through. Won't be especially heavy, but because we haven't seen any for ages, it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system. Also, strong winds with it, but it should have cleared by the time Good Friday comes along, which is looking dry and fine.
And that's how we look tonight. In just a moment, we have the ITV evening news with more on the terrorist attacks in Brussels. And just a recap tonight, here in the south, security has been stepped up at our airports and ports.
And don't forget, there'll be the very latest on news at 10 tonight, and then I'll be here after that programme with the late news from our region. Thanks for watching.